right, let's jump straight into today's explainer. We are diving deep into the most critical global news stories right now, unpacking the incredibly complex web of geopolitical hotspots that are actively shaping our world. And you know the drill. My goal here is simply to break down the hard facts, the data, and the direct statements from our sources. We're going to get a really clear, structured look at what is actually happening on the ground, completely without taking sides. We're just laying out the puzzle pieces so we can all see the bigger picture together. To make sense of a really dense news day, here's our flight map. We're hitting Section 1, Middle East Stalled Diplomacy. Section 2, Middle East Escalating Conflicts. Section 3, Russia and Ukraine Drone Warfare. Section 4, Taiwan Sovereignty and Superpowers. And we'll wrap up with Section 5, our rapid-fire global news briefs. Let's get to it. Starting off with Section 1, Middle East. Stalled Diplomacy, Negotiations, and Ultimatums. So the diplomatic tension right now, it's perfectly captured by a recent post from former U.S. President Donald Trump. He put out this really stark warning to Iran on Truth Social, basically saying that time is rapidly running out. He urged Tehran to make a decision quickly, adding, and this is a direct quote, "or nothing will be left of Tehran." Now, what makes this absolutely crucial to understand is the timing. This post came immediately following a phone call between Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. And sources indicate that the main topic of that call was, you guessed it, Iran. It's pretty obvious why these negotiations have hit a wall when you look at what both sides are actually asking for. It's a massive diplomatic gulf. Iran is laying out extensive demands: an end to Israeli ops in Lebanon, a total halt to war on all fronts, lifting U.S. blockades on their ports, guarantees against any future attacks, total sovereignty in the Strait of Hormuz, and compensation for war damages. On the flip side, Washington's counteroffer is incredibly strict. They're demanding Iran limit itself to just one active nuclear site, they flat out refuse to pay any war compensation, and they've made it clear that a ceasefire on all fronts will only kick in once actual negotiations start.
So, with things being this fragile, neighboring Pakistan is stepping in to try and cool the temperature. Pakistan's Interior Minister, Mohsin Naqvi, is actually in Tehran right now for a 2-day visit. He's holding some very high-level talks with Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian and Parliament Speaker Ghalibaf Alof. The goal here is to mediate, try to nudge those U.S.-Iran discussions forward, and hopefully bring some stability back to the region.
Which leads us right into Section 2, Middle East. Escalating conflicts, drones, airstrikes, and casualties. This diplomatic stalemate is naturally spilling over into active conflict, and we have a highly concerning development in the Gulf. The UAE's Barakah nuclear power plant in Abu Dhabi was just targeted by a drone attack. 3 drones came in from the western border. Air defenses managed to intercept 2 of them, but that third one actually struck inside the facility, hitting a generator and starting a fire. Now, thankfully, the UAE confirmed there was no radioactive leak and normal power output wasn't impacted. But Rafael El-Grossi, the head of the International Atomic Energy Agency, expressed some deep concern. He noted the strike forced one reactor to temporarily run on emergency diesel generators. This is a huge deal because it exposes just how fragile the regional energy grid is. A miscalculation near a nuclear site could be catastrophic. And for a bit of context, remember that Iran had previously issued some pretty stern warnings to the UAE about deepening its ties with Israel. Meanwhile, the security situation across the borders is just rapidly deteriorating. Down in southern Lebanon, Israel has launched a series of really extensive airstrikes. They've heavily targeted the town of Jawaya in the Tyre district, with consecutive hits reported in places like Qusayba, Tibnan, and Frown. Lebanese state media is reporting that these bombardments have killed at least 8 people and injured several others, which is just further destabilizing an incredibly volatile frontier. And in the ongoing war in Gaza, we are seeing completely competing narratives regarding civilian casualties. In central Gaza's Deir al-Balah, a strike hit a community kitchen. Al Jazeera reports that the 8 people killed were charity workers who were just distributing food. Hamas has forcefully condemned this, calling it a deliberate war crime and claiming Israel is systematically targeting humanitarian ops. Conversely, the Israeli military says that strikes successfully took out a Hamas commander, something Hamas hasn't commented on. We're also tracking reports of more fatal strikes down in Khan Yunis and up north in Beit Lahia. To really wrap our heads around the immense scale of this war, we have to look at the data from the Gaza Health Ministry. They're reporting that since this conflict kicked off on October 7, 2023, over 72,760 Palestinians have been killed in the Israeli military campaign. That is a staggering number. But what's really striking and honestly alarming is that 871 of those deaths happened just since the ceasefire went into effect this past October. It shows a rapid escalation even during diplomatic pauses. All right, shifting gears. Section 3, Russia and Ukraine, drone warfare and unprecedented aerial attacks. We are seeing a massive shift in modern military tactics right now. The sheer volume of the recent drone exchange we're tracking is unbelievable. In just a single 24-hour window, Ukraine launched over 500 drones aimed straight at the Moscow region. Russia fired back with 287 drones targeting Ukraine. And get this, the Russian Defense Ministry claims their air defenses actually intersected over 1,000 Ukrainian drones nationwide in that exact same window. It is literally raining drones out there. So what's the actual fallout from numbers like that? Well, Ukraine's coordinated strikes did hit Russian infrastructure, specifically 2 oil pumping stations, a refinery, and a factory making semiconductors for the Russian military. The attack left at least 25 dead in Russia. In fact, Moscow's mayor called it the largest attack on the capital in over a year. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky didn't mince words. He explicitly stated this was direct retaliation for recent Russian bombardments. On the other side, Russia's counterlaunch of those 287 drones injured 12 people in Kyiv, causing even more casualties in the Dnipropetrovsk and Zaporizhia regions. Military analysts are pointing out that this relentless back-and-forth drone warfare threatens to widen the entire conflict significantly. Let's cross the globe now. Section 4, Taiwan. Sovereignty and superpowers in an Asian diplomatic standoff. Over in Asia, superpower tensions are really bubbling up over Taiwan's status. After a huge meeting in Beijing, Chinese state media reported that Xi Jinping warned Donald Trump that Taiwan is the single most critical issue in U.S.-China relations. Trump later made a comment saying he doesn't want anyone to be independent. Well, Taiwan's president, Lai Ching-te, clapped back swiftly and firmly. He declared, there is no separate issue called Taiwan independence. The Republic of China, or Taiwan, is a sovereign and independent democratic state. Lai made it crystal clear they won't surrender their sovereignty or democratic lifestyle under pressure, though he did mention he's open to dialogue with China's president, as long as it's on equal footing. Hanging right in the balance of all this tough talk is Taiwan's actual defense capability. For decades, Washington has backed Taipei militarily under the Taiwan Relations Act. In fact, just this past December, the Trump administration approved a massive $11 billion arms sale to Taiwan. But following his recent visit to Beijing, Trump has hinted that he's actually undecided on whether he'll push that sale across the finish line. It's a huge leverage point, and it's got the entire U.S.-China-Taiwan dynamic on edge. Finally, let's wrap things up with Section 5, Global News Briefs. Rapid updates around the world. It has been a wild, volatile 24 hours globally, so let's do a quick sweep. Down in southern China, a deadly 5.2 magnitude earthquake hit Liuzhou, collapsing buildings and forcing over 7,000 people to evacuate. Stateside, absolute disaster was narrowly avoided in Idaho when 2 Navy fighter jets collided midair at an air show. Amazingly, all 4 crew members managed to eject safely. Down in Mexico, a tragic mass shooting in Puebla State left 10 dead, triggering a massive National Guard sweep. Over in India, V.D. Sathisen was officially sworn in as the new chief minister of Kerala. And finally, North Korea's Kim Jong-un has just ordered his border units to adapt their strategies and actively prep for modern warfare. When you step back and look at this entire interconnected web, from stalled talks and exploding drones in the Middle East to unprecedented aerial bombardments in Eastern Europe and a multi-billion-dollar superpower standoff over Taiwan, we are basically watching the rules of modern warfare and diplomacy being rewritten in real time. The question you really have to ask yourself isn't just if these conflicts will reshape global stability. It's when these isolated sparks inevitably connect, is the global community actually prepared for the fire? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep questioning the world around you. Catch you next time.